morning, students. Today we are going to start with our new chapter, that is chapter 4, metals and non-metals. It's a very important and basic chapter even for 10th class also. That is chapter 3 in 10th class, that is metals and non-metals. But before starting our chapter, we are going to learn something about atoms. Now, what do you mean by atoms? Atoms are the smallest particle of an element. Even you cannot see the atom with your naked eyes. And even with the powerful microscope also, you cannot see the atom. For example, gold. Gold is an element. Okay. Now, as you can see in the picture, the gold ring is made up of only gold atoms. Now, total there are 92 elements which are present in nature. कुदरती रूप से 92 elements हैं जो nature में present हैं. Those elements are categorized on their physical properties as metals and non-metals. Now, what do you mean by metals? Metals means those elements which are being classified according to the physical properties such as hardness, shining, malleability, ductility and fusibility. Those elements are termed as metals. For example, gold, silver, aluminium, copper. Now next is the non-metals. So what do you mean by non-metals? Non-metals are the elements which are not having the characteristics of metals such as hardness, shininess, malleability and ductility. Those materials or elements are classified as non-metals. Now we are going to learn the physical properties of metals and non-metals one by one. Now the first physical property is luster. Luster means what? All the metals are having lustrous, or they are having shininess, or they are always shining. For example, gold and silver, as you can see in the picture. But non-metals are not lustrous. They are very dull in look. For example, sulfur and phosphorus, as you can see in the picture. Now, only the non-metal, that is iodine, is only having lustrous. Now, the second property is the malleability. Malleability means what? The property of metals by which they can be beaten into thin sheets is known as malleability. For example, silver, copper, aluminum. As you are already using copper foils or aluminum foils for packing your foods, you are using the silver foil for decorating your sweets. Now the third property is ductility. Ductility means what? The property of metals by which they can be drawn into wires by beating them with hammer or by machine. For example, copper wire, the aluminum wire. You are using those wires for supplying electricity in your home. Non-metals are not ductile. For example, sulfur and phosphorus, because they are brittle in nature. Brittle means soft, nazuk. Now the fourth property is the conductivity. As we already know and we have already learned in the previous classes, all the metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Especially the silver and gold are the best conductor of electricity. And all the utensils of copper, aluminum and steel are used in your kitchen for cooking the food. Why? Because they are good conductors of heat, right? Now, non-metals are poor conductor of heat and electricity. For example, sulfur. Diamond is the only non-metal which is the good conductor of heat, and graphite is the only non-metal which is the good conductor of electricity. But it cannot be used to supply electricity because it is brittle in nature. Means वो काफी soft होते हैं, काफी नाजुक होते हैं, right? Now the fifth property is called sonorous. Sonorous means produce a ringing sound when we strike them. For example, as you can see in the picture, when the hammer of electric bell strikes the metal gong, then the ringing sound is produced. Now the non-metal are not sonorous. They do not produce any kind of ringing sound in the case of carbon and sulfur. Now the sixth property is the hardness. All the metals are generally hard. For example, iron, copper, gold and aluminum. Now except mercury. Mercury is the only metal which is found in liquid state at room temperature. Now, as you can see in the picture, the sodium and potassium are the only metals which are soft in nature and they can be easily cut with knife. And in the case of non-metals, all the non-metals are soft in nature. For example, sulfur and phosphorus, they can be easily cut with knife. Only the diamond is a non-metal which is very hard in nature. Now, the seventh property is the strength. Metals are usually strong. They have a very high tensile strength. That's why they are used for making bridges, buildings, ships, aeroplanes, etc. As you can see in the picture. For example, iron is having a high tensile strength and steel also. Non-metals are not so strong. They have a very low tensile strength. For example, lead is having a very low tensile strength. As you can see the lead in your pencil, which can be easily broken by applying some pressure. Now all those physical properties, I have listed them as a difference between metals and non-metals. Now in the next section, we are going to learn about the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Till then, be fine and goodbye.